for still being there. This is Rock City 101.9 FM in the city of Abeokuta. Yes, yes, yes. This is the voice of the people. Daybreak Show, Citizens Forum, on this 27th day of November 2017. Simply meaning that we have less than 4 weeks or less than 30 days to the end of the year 2017. All right, yes, as usual, we'll be talking national issues that has one thing or the other to do with what you do on a daily basis, either by policy or by its implementation. Well, last week, again, disturbingly, the news came in of the fracas between security agents. All these agencies are supposed to be one federal institutions operating for the federal government of Nigeria. The Economic and Financial Crime Commission's attempt to arrest the former DG of the State Security Service, Ita Ekpenyong, was revoked by some of the members of that agency. Similarly, another attempt to arrest the former DG again of the National Intelligence Agency, Ayodo, was also flattered by these security agencies refusing officials of the FCC to touch them. And this became an opening thing. I said an opening thing. It's a row really ongoing. If you want to really link it with the issue of the Maina, Abdurrashid Maina, the inability as we speak of anyone to specifically, emphatically tell us where he is, how he got reappointed, his recall, payment, and all these things. The promotion. None of the federal government institution has been able to say we did it. It came from us, even when there are letters. Interestingly and disturbingly, some people will say this is a pointer to some structural irregularity, or you can also say institutional defects in the country. We have just one commander-in-chief, the CNC. So when we have these security agencies and other government arms, when the Falcon can't listen to the Falconer, definitely you know what that means. The National Assembly, Senate in particular, have taken up this issue. They say they are investigating it, but we don't want to wait till the outcome of that investigation. The signals, like I said, is that something is wrong structurally. There is a defect in our institution or some irregularities in some high places in the country. This is what we want to look at extensively this morning on the show. Quickly, we have online a security expert. Is actually an expert in security strategies on the line with us. Colonel Ademola Lawal, retired. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right. Colonel Lawal, when you heard this story, I haven't served in the Nigerian Army, senior officer, and today, of course, you hold a PhD in issues like this. What goes through your mind, sir?
Well, what goes through my mind is that there's a breakdown of, the system in terms of coordination. There should be interagency coordination, and there should be a directive. There should be cooperation, and I think that cooperation has broken down. Interagency cooperation has broken down. That's the first thing I want to say. And secondly, and most importantly, there must be somebody coordinating all these activities. And I believe that that also has lost its credibility in this particular aspect. It's very easy to invite those senior officers to go to the office, just tell them, well, please can you come over to the office, and that's all, instead of this show of shame that went on in that case.
All right, then who do we place the blame in this kind of issue, or who has the assignment that is not doing it?
For me, I think it's the office of the National Security Advisor, because he coordinates these all these security agencies. Don't forget that the armed forces, police, they are cooperating very well now after a long outcry from the public They have gotten their acts together, and you can hardly find issues like that in the armed forces. But this particular one is becoming too embarrassing, national embarrassment. Don't forget, recently too, we had this issue of the EFCC breaking into judges' quarters and all those kind of things. These things can easily be done by mere invitation. Invite them, and then because they are still under you, they respond to you. It's not as if they will not respond to your directives. All you needed to do was to call them and say, can we see you in the office? And they will oblige. And then you can from there take off whatever you wanted to do.
Now,
I think it's a raw show of power, as far as I'm concerned.
do you also agree with those who think part of the problem is simply the way in which the heads or those who are supervising these agencies were appointed? Some have said they are all political benefactors.
Precisely so, precisely so, precisely so. You know, what seems to me is that they are jostling for, prominence. Maybe they want to show their boss or whoever that, well, indeed, we are working better than others. It's a contestation of, power.
But how would you react to the allegation or the insinuation in some quarters that President Muhammadu Buhari is not in charge of his government, and that is why we are witnessing or seeing many of these lapses?
Well, for me, I wouldn't really take it that high up there. I think there are some responsibilities that, comes to an office. If somebody is given a responsibility, he must do it properly. It's not everything that is put at the door. Of course, I know the buck ends with the commander-in-chief, but some of these things, people should get responsibility. And I think the first doorstep is the NSA's office, the office of the NSA. He is the one who should do proper coordination of these activities in order to avoid this kind of embarrassment. At a point in time, the president might have to wait in, but he need not wait in everything. There are some of these things that are just managerial. I think the interagency coordination is very poor.
Now, apart from intelligence coordination, one major cardinal point and focus of this administration is anti-corruption war. The DSS and the EFCC are supposed to be brothers, and of course brothers in arms in fighting this corruption. But as it is, they are at loggerheads. Do you still have hope in the anti-corruption battle of this present administration when those that are supposed to be fighting it are fighting each other?
Yeah, we should have hope. We should continue to have hope. All we need to do is to continue to fine-tune it. Where they err, the public should, correct them. And I'm happy that your station, for example, is taking up the challenge of letting them know that, look, what you are doing is wrong. You better get your act together. As for fighting corruption, we have no option. We must. And everybody knows. And what you are doing is part of fighting corruption. You are trying to sanitize the organization that fights corruption, and therefore you are contributing. So in time, with time, some of these acts will be better coordinated, and we'll move ahead. But as for fighting corruption, certainly, you need to do that. You need to continue to encourage people who are given the responsibility to do so in a more better procedural manner, without raw force, and in a more manner of rule of law.
Is there any immediate or long-term implication effect of this kind of disagreement between these two agencies as it has to do with security in the country?
Oh, of course, certainly credibility will be lost. And when credibility is lost, whatever you do, people begin to question. But if it's straightforward and quite clean, everybody will rely on it and believe that something is being done properly. But as soon as credibility is lost, whatever you do will be given a success. And so I think the major, problem here is loss of credibility.
To immediately stop this, what should the federal government or the NSA, National Security Advisor, as you mentioned, what should they do?
They should get us together. They should call out agencies, all these agencies, their heads and begin to do constant coordination. Everybody is fighting his own corner. You continue to fight your own corner, there's going to be disturbance to the public. So people will know that they are not getting their act together. So the first thing to be done is for the NSA to bring all these inter-agency heads together. All of them put them together and get their act together. You know, the problem is that people believe that the end itself is what matters. But no, even the procedure, the process is equally important. The process in achieving an end is equally important. Therefore, if you are not getting your act together and the public is having, is not trusting the process and credibility is lost, even the outcome will not be appreciated. Therefore, the NSA will ensure that credibility is not lost. And you can do that by proper coordination. All the agencies must coordinate.
All right, finally, before we let you go, before now, there have been agitations for the removal or substitution of Ibrahim Magu as the acting chairman of EFCC. Some have also raised eyebrows about the position and the activities of the head of the DSS, Dara. Now, would you say that with all this that is happening now, Mr. President should give them the boots and inject fresh blood?
Well, the president knows what he has considered, and this is going to be the end of it is that he is going to bear the brunt of public outcry. Like you rightly said, the president needs to do something. If he thinks that he has actually crossed the line, and fine, he should. But I believe that he knows why he's there. Maybe there are some issues or there are some characteristics or qualities he admires in them, and they think they can do the job fine. But as far as I'm concerned, he should fine tune it. He should ensure that there's anything in it. You know?
All right, thank you.
All right, we thank you, sir. Colonel Ademola Lawal, retired, for joining us on the program this morning. We appreciate you, sir.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you. Have a good day.
Okay, well, that's the voice of retired Colonel Ademola Lawal. He's a lecturer at the Institute of Strategy. Of course, he's security and strategy expert. Okay, in agreement with those who believe that those offices have been politicized, and this is why some of these people lack that order or respect for each other in carrying out their instruction. There shouldn't have been any problem as far as it's concerned in any of these agencies' assignments. There should be no conflict. There's no way it can interwoven when they are doing the assignment, that they should therefore get their acts together to move the country forward. Of course, the implications are there on that act on security, decision implementation in the country, which will not be too good for Nigeria. That's his opinion. Colonel Ademola Lawal, retired, speaking to us from Abuja. And here in the studio is one of us, a sociologist, public analyst, Ola Animashaun. Good morning.
Good morning. It's good to be here.
Okay, Alhaji Ola Animashaun. Some people have described this act, the report, in different manners. To say the least, some will say it's shameful and embarrassing to Nigeria. Do you see it in that light too?
Sincerely speaking, if there are other words to use apart from shameful and the embarrassment factor, I think one should be able to use it. Because when you see it, you should be able to say it as it is, or else you'll be injuring yourself from within, and at the end of the day, God knows what. It's quite an embarrassment for Nigeria, for the seat of power, and for the whole of the country. I want to appreciate Colonel Ademola Lawal for his submissions, although I might have some differences of opinion in one or two aspects, but to a very large extent, I want to agree with him. But specifically, he said that you can't find this kind of a thing. I was still coming back to the details of the fracas and all that. Yeah, But saying that you don't find this in the armed forces, yes, maybe not necessarily in the armed forces from the outside look of the situation, but somehow you have seen fracas happening from the military, for instance, the army and the police in some
No,
instances.
he said that's been settled, it's been solved
Yeah,
through
to
interagency,
I hope so,
through
but
the heads of the agencies.
it's not totally out of the way. You've seen it also from the police and the civil defense, for instance. It has happened in Ogun State. You have even seen it from the immigration and the blue uniform people, the traffic management people in Ogun State at Kuto. At least I'm still a living witness to that, where because of just ordinary parking fee or parking properly, the immigration has to start shooting in the air in the interest of a particular woman. I don't know whether she was then the head or the wife of the head or something like that. You see, we've got to respect constituted authority. You are an agent of government and you are our agent. So you've got to observe decorum in whatever you do. That's not to say that the armed forces is full of fracas and unrest. I want to agree with him to a very high extent. And relatively speaking, he was also referring to, yes, that is supposed to be the normal situation. The issue of Ekweyo, getting him to come in through normal discussion. That is the
Invite
standard,
him rather
inviting
than the
him.
commando
In fact, you
style of
could have even
arrest.
asked him to be brought in by those who are guiding him if we have to follow the normal system. But it appears the abnormal is the operational word here. And he said something about the politicization. Ordinarily, they are supposed to be apolitical. They are not supposed to be involved. But there seems to be interests that are playing up now. And the undercurrent, obviously, is affecting their professionalism. And it's quite unfortunate. And the undercurrent, you could even observe it from the very body language of Magu himself, the very day the fracas took place, when the camera was following him. And he was actually saying the right thing, that nobody is above the law. But then, what happened before that development? You look at the SSS, the disagreement between SSS and Magu himself during the Magu confirmation and cross-examination
The
by the
National Assembly.
Senate. And that shows that, because the SSS came up with two reports. One does not favor Magu, one seems to favor him. But the damaging report has created a lot of loopholes in his mission or in his principal's mission. As such, he is already a wounded lion in quote. Magu I meant this time around. It's like your normal phrase, you double me, which has happened years before. You double me, I kaka you.
you.
So it's like, if this is what is happening and you are going to frustrate me from being confirmed as chairman of EFCC, that is on a personal ground and my assumption, then I'm also going to make sure that I have brought you in. You must be answerable. Of course, whoever has gone contrary to the provisions of normalcy in governance should be brought in for questioning and must be answerable. But where somebody in the name of Ekpeyong feels, well, I am not ready to go in for questioning, and the one who is in charge of bringing him in is saying you have to come in, then you cannot but expect this kind of a development where there is no synergy in terms of administrative procedures.
Now, with all this, these are facts on ground, drama, so to say, that we saw. Does it not then support the argument of those who say no matter how good Magu can be, the situation in which he finds himself no longer makes him qualified to do the job? One, we talk about the style, his media trial of many of the suspects before they are taken to court. Colonel Ademola also talked about the invasion of the judges' quarters. These are people you could have on phone, you have their contacts, invite them, or even use their bosses, the NJC, to bring them in. The same thing is done with Ekpenyong and OK. These are people you could also, like you've also alluded to, invited. So these are freestyling of him, which shows him as somebody who could be overzealous in carrying out his assignment and even become too heady if he had the support of CNC and therefore not able to handle that job, not mature to handle that job.
Let's be practical with ourselves. We're human beings. He can be challenged for being occasionally overzealous or heady. It depends on the way you look at it. It's a different ball game. You ask somebody else, will say that's not the situation. But there's a Yoruba balance that says that you see, if you have somebody backing you, like you rightly said, with CNC, if the principal is saying go ahead.
Now we are looking at procedure now.
Yes,
it should not be about me or you.
I know.
It should not be about CNC or Mango. It should be about the institution.
I agree with you.
And structure.
But he has a job to do. And the principal is saying go ahead. He has to follow procedure. But I am not supporting Mango. I am against whatever has happened. It's an aberration. It's not the best. It's a shameful development from all sides that are involved in it. But if your principal says go ahead, perhaps you had explored, because somehow most of this development, what happens from under might not be so open to us. Look at what happened in the
No, we can't, of course, we can say from what happened. You just
it's what we see from the outside.
No, look at your analysis
to have done.
No, it's natural. We are
Yes.
humans. Somebody you have been invited to take a job, plumpy job as it is, and somebody is kicking against you, and that person has now blocked, so to say.
That's why I say
so
it's like a case of you dabble me, I attack you. But then he is able to hide under the umbrella of the go ahead of the principal, and the fact that he has a job to do. Of course, procedurally, he might be failing. That is the question we're supposed to ask ourselves. Has he followed the normal procedures in carrying out his assignment? And I'm saying we might not.
From what we've seen now,
from what we have
he
seen,
did not, because
we
it
are
was
not
after,
so- we are not so
after that
convinced.
invention he went to court.
We are not so convinced. But if you ask him directly now, he will tell you he has done one or two things, and these people are not ready to come in. And he will now tell you that he has the capacity, where some people refuses to come in easily, that they have to force them in.
What does this tell you about the leadership capacity of the president himself when all this is happening under his watch?
It's quite unfortunate that we have these happenings. I will not want to blame the president directly. We might say, and it's right to be concluded, that everything falls on his table. But indirectly, I will say yes, the president has some portion of the blame. But he has delegated assignments to some people. That is why he has subordinates. He has ministers. He has people in charge of security. He has security advisors and others who are supposed to be the coordinate. It is their job to make sure that they deliver accordingly and give briefings to His Excellency and let him decide where there are things to be decided upon. The president, for God's sake, cannot be everywhere. But indirectly, he is responsible. In this instance, like Colonel Ademola Lawal, retired, rightly said, the NSA should be directly responsible for this. He is the National Security Advisor, for God's sake. He is supposed to advise the president that there is a kind of fracas, there are dichotomies, that these people are not working on purpose, they are not working on target. We need to bring them to book. We need to get them to understand that they've got to work professionally. Of course, this kind of a thing happened during the 9/11 situation in America. It affected America greatly, but they quickly rallied around through the Homeland Security, because the CIA, the FBI, and others, they are working on different platforms. There was an input from the Egyptian security to the CIA. They got some information, but they were not synergizing. They could have abated it. Of course, some opinionists or conspiracy theorists will tell you other things went that brought about 9/11, which is not impossible. But in terms of security, if they had worked on purpose, perhaps it would have been averted. So that shows you that it's not really peculiar to Nigeria, But it's just that sometimes some things get so aggravated when it comes to our situation that you tend to look at it and say, why should it be this difficult? But America was able to use the homeland security to cover up for this deficiency. In this instance now, I don't really like duplication of functions or commission of agents and all the rest. But since we have an NSA who is directly responsible in channel of communication to the presidency and the president himself, I think he should have done the best necessary. I think he should be questioned in this instance for shortcomings.
With all this, you just mentioned it technically. Do you think we have too many of these agencies? Almost all these agencies were carved out of the police. And these assignments, the department of the Nigerian police can handle. So, do you think we have too many of these agencies?
To be sincere with you, we have too many. Of course, a lot of them are, departmentalized. They have special functions to do. Perhaps because of the inadequacy or incapacitation of the Nigeria police. Ordinarily, the special fraud unit of the Nigeria police should have been well enhanced. In fact, the Nigeria police should have been well capacitated, given the capacity to deliver and do the jobs that they are supposed to do in terms of crime prevention, traffic, and all the rest. But where you have an SFU, special fraud unit, that is not quite functional, I'm not saying it is functional, so that the police will not say, what are you saying? Not quite functional. Then it's inevitable that you have an EFCC that will come in. You have an ICPC that will have to come in and do some other jobs. Look at the road traffic control, for instance. Ordinarily, you don't have need the FRSC. I hope the FRSC people will not crucify me for this because of employment opportunities. But you have the highway patrolling the police. I want to believe it's still an existing department. Look at the Ministry of Information, for instance. Sorry if I'm digressing. You have the Public Enlightenment Department in the Ministry of Information. But today you have NOAA that has developed from MAMSA, National Orientation, I've forgotten so many names that they have come up with.
To become
NOA now. With all apologies, we have also all been saying that NOAA has not lived up to expectation. Perhaps because of funding. I know if you ask Mr. Babalola, the one in charge of Ogun State here today, he will be able to defend himself. You only get to know about them more during the electioneering, perhaps when they have a little votes to do some other things. But the Public Enlightenment Department of the Ministry of Information, I'm sure we have a Ministry of Information federal in Abeokuta here in Ogun State. What are they doing? What is the Public Enlightenment Department of that ministry doing that only NOAA has to do it? Why are they paying people in that department? These are things we have to look at. Duplication of functions. It's not the best for the country. It erodes resources. Yes, in terms of employment opportunities, there to guarantee employment for people. But the point is, there are jobs that are supposed to be done by some departments, and they are getting votes and budgets every year, just getting salary for doing nothing, while other departments are created for that purpose.
But now that we have this overlapping agencies, how best do we go about solving the problem? Because it seems the best way is to either scrap some of these agencies without leading to loss of jobs.
That's why I've been emphasizing the employment factor, so that it will not be as if you want to get people out of job. But I think we've got to get something done seriously. If you want to have this agency, make them functional. What about other departments that are doing the same job? Can't we just get them together? Is it not possible to collapse them, the staffers, and their function, such that we can have a harmonized organization, department, agency that will do the job rather than having duplication? I am very sure, yes, Nigerian police have been having knocks all around, but if you have a special fraud unit that is well empowered, you might not, I'm not saying it is not important, you might not necessarily need the EFCC, but because of the myriad of problems that we are confronted with in terms of corruption, which is very, very endemic, goes beyond just the governmental level, the private involvement and all the rest. But because we are able to see those in power, embezzling the money, it appears that the police would be overwhelmed. That's why the EFCC becomes a necessity. But in terms of prosecutional capacity, I am not sure the EFCC has been able to deliver effectively. Yes, you can't argue with that. The lawyers getting that they are involved in might be shortchanging us deliberately, either commission or omission, or they are incapacitated somehow because they don't have the capacity to prosecute effectively, or the investigative factor is not concrete enough to guarantee effective conviction in terms of prosecution.
Let's look at the personnel, again, the individuals and their character. Specifically, the one we are talking about, Ekpe Young, Ayoke, and Mangu. Now, as part of your submission, you mentioned overzealousness by individuals now. That's why one can absolve the president, the commander in chief, and say he may not be involved, he does not have to know about it because he has expected those he has given the
Delegated.
assignment to be mature people. Let's look at these people, and of course, we also talked about the same situation we've had in the state between other uniform agencies. True, the commissioner of police may not fight the brigade commander because of their status and all these things, but even within the Nigerian police, you have a quarrel between a corporal and a sergeant and an inspector over some duty things. What does this show of our recruitment procedure? Because these are special assignments. So what does this show?
I think no matter how you fine tune your recruitment position, crisis is inevitable. It is inevitable that you have discordant you have misunderstandings. But it is how you handle the crisis resolution, the management that matters. And for God's sake, it's not peculiar to Nigeria as well. That's why you have them having guard room trial, court martial, and all the rest, because there will be some recalcitrant elements here and there, and that's why you have rules and regulations to checkmate the excesses of whoever wants to derail. But where you now have intergovernmental agencies involved, then that means you need an umbrella body or organization or some body that is responsible, like the NSA will continue to say it, to make sure that these things are named in the board such that it will not become a recurring decimal that embarrasses everybody. Look at the fracas. Look at Wike and Rotimi Amici. Look at what
the
happened.
Same policemen and given different.
It's quite an embarrassment in the security community. It's not a very beautiful scenario. It ridicules your security apparatus, the strength of your security network. It says that your control mechanism is very weak. So there's need for us to buckle up.
Now, let us look at one very major factor. The Ricky and Amici saga in River States quickly brings this to mind. So many people have questioned the professionalism of security agencies, especially the police force and the Nigerian army. But this time around, when you put that side by side with politicization of these agencies, how do we rationalize how some of these people behave when they seem to be partisan, so to speak, to their boss?
Thank you very much,
the
Tobi.
sitting governor.
Thank you very much, Tobi. Colonel Lawal said something the other time. He said they are becoming political, which is true. Ordinarily, professionally, uniform people are supposed to be apolitical, non-political. They are supposed to rally around the flag and protect the integrity of the country, guide the citizens, and do everything in terms of security. But where they are answerable, the political factor has brought about this, problem. Where one is answerable to this politician and the other one is answerable to this, don't forget the main instruction given to them is protect and guide this person. So the mission is to protect Ekpeyong, to protect Amechi, to protect Wike, to protect Magu. So it is inevitable that if Magu is trying to do something that is out of ordinary, those who are responsible for protecting Ekpeyong, the former DSS boss, will respond, irrespective of the fact that they are from the same police force. The same thing is what happened in Port Harcourt between Amechi and Amechi even had the SARS, the head of the SARS, coming to with a lot of people to protect him right from the airport, while Wike has the control of the police, whereas both SARS and the regular police are under the Nigerian police force.
Supposed to be
So
under one
they are supposed to be under one control.
Now, before, because we will have to take the break for the news, let me ask you, with all this, do you think these people we are mentioning deserve to today retain their job or their position?
Who amongst them?
Oh, okay, the Ekpenyong is no longer
Is ex DSS boss.
Okay,
still getting the protection, which is normal.
What normal you say?
I think most ex people, it may not be a large and a large.
That's what appears. Array of those who can prevent an EFCC arrest. That means they are
what I don't understand is the army of protection that he has. I don't know whether that one is normal. That looks abnormal. But I think normally they do have one or two guys when they
no, there are more than one.
But this one is just like an army of protection.
Yes, it's still like the same retinue they were enjoying while serving.
Which is expensive for the states to bear. Which is an abnormal development. I don't know what they are running away from. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, Ekpenyong, once you have been challenged that there is the need for you to answer some question, what stops you from going into the EFCC and answer the question if you have nothing to hide? Why do you have to run away from being arrested? Why must it get to the public why must you get to the public and get yourself embarrassed that you want to arrest you?
Do they deserve this kind of protection the state is giving them?
That's what I don't understand. I don't know what the rules.
Even let's look at the fact that they have not been indicted. No allegation. Do you think because they are out of sight, do they deserve that kind of protection?
I don't know what the rule says. I am not a military person.
No, from our own angle.
But I think if you need anybody to go around with this, just one is enough. Why are you over-guiding yourself? It shows that you have some skeletons in your cupboard. You are afraid. You are protecting yourself. The rest of the citizens are not protected. You say that we don't have enough, policemen to protect Nigerians. There's a particular UNESCO, United Nations standard, a particular number of policemen to the number of people. But here you are now, the little that we have, you have guarded yourself with these ones, just in the name of protecting yourself from who and what? I don't understand.
All right. Yes, don't worry. We will be back after the 10 o'clock news, and we'll still have Ola Animashaun here with us, looking at that endless friction between the different government security agencies. Stay tuned. All right, thanks for still being there. Daybreak Show on Rock City 101.9 FM. Yes, in the city of Abeokuta Citizens Forum, the first for the last week of November 2017. We are looking at the endless friction, fracas, crisis between the different security agencies of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Remember, another TV drama that happened. Some people are saying every week or every day is a different drama since 2015. Just after that of River State occurred, where you see policemen in uniform pinning each other to the floor and raining abuses on each other. We all saw again the FCC's attempt, floated the attempt to arrest the former DG of the SSS, Ita Ekpenyong, and the now sacked DG of the National Intelligence Agency, Ayodo. Okay, what Magu has said is not giving up, but after that he's gone to court to now ask for a warrant of arrest, which some people said putting the cat before the horse. That's what he should have done first. Or like one of our callers, political security strategist Ademola Lawal, retired army colonel, said mere telephone call, letter, invitation will have done the job for him. We have with us a sociologist, member of the House really, Alhaji Ola Animashaun. Let's open the telephone lines to get your own question, comments, and issues you disagree or agree with so far on the program, and then you can use all the platforms that are available. All right, thank you too. We'll move on.
How you doing? Morning. Morning. Mm.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, your 2 minutes. Thank
Good morning, Big Daddy.
you. Sir? Oh. All right. Uh, thank you, Rebecca. All right. Thank you. No,
No,
that's the answer.
he's acting.
All right. All right. Thank you, Emeka. Thank you. Thank you. 2 minutes maximum allocated. Please let's adhere to that.
Alhaji Ola Animashaun handle this contributions that came over the call. Let's quickly look at the tweets. We have a couple of them here. Dolani Robert says the mechanism and dynamism of recruiting most of the security agencies should be thoroughly looked into, so we won't be having any fraud amidst the agencies. Should President Buhari should orientate all security agencies by making them to know their major purpose is to secure the wealth of the nation and limit crime rate. That's still Dolani Robert. Okay, Dolani Robert once again. Happy belated birthday to Mr. Dele Ayodo. I wish you long life and prosperity. Keep waxing stronger. Thank you, Dolani. All right, Akurede Camille says, I think the first thing the president should do is to correct the manners in which these security agencies are misused. The abuse in their usage is overmuch. Using security agents to shield yourself when they are supposed to fight crime and corruption shouldn't be condoned by any serious government. I do not I do know that continuous interagency fraud has grave implications. There is no doubt that the greatest of such implications is insecurity of the Nigerian state and her people. The president should show he is in control. All right, Yemi Da Vinci says, I agree with Colonel Lawal and Alhaji Animashaun. However, I put all the blame on this issue fully on the president. We made no excuses for Goodluck Jonathan and will hold him to a higher standard. How a retired army general will have subordinates openly fighting and being unruly and has done nothing about it for over a year is beyond me. In my own opinion, both Mamandara and Ibrahim Mago should have been called to a meeting with the president and NSA and ordered to work together. If enmity persists, they should have been fired. We don't need a docile lion as a president. We need a big kahuna whose roar alone can stop squabbling policemen in their tracks and cause Ekpe to surrender. Those are tweets from Yemi Da Vinci. Leo Leshi Olanre says issue of EFCC acting chairman is very political. Animashaun, over to you.
Well, quite a myriad of questions and agitations. Let me start from Baba Olakelani talking about our not being systemic, the constitutional dictates and the presidential order. I think it's not that we don't have a system in place. We might say that there are some weaknesses in our system that some people are lashing out onto, or there's a need to review our system to fine-tune it with developing challenges such that we can meet up with current trends of events in human development. As per constitutional dictates, I want to believe that every outfit has guiding rules and regulations, the rules of engagement and procedures of operation. So in this instance, it's an anomaly if anybody goes outside those rules of engagement. I want to believe they have guiding rules and they should conform with those rules. Concerning presidential order of arrest, I don't think it has really gotten to this extent because there are agencies responsible for this assignment. As we have said, the president cannot be doing everything. So does that mean if anything happens in Ogun State or Port Harcourt, the president will just be asking everybody to be arrested? No, it's not the job of the president. It is the job of the agencies responsible to do the necessary, to carry out their functions accordingly and give feedback to His Excellency. Thank you very much. My dear friend, Dr. Okom, he agrees with me on the US example. And like Mr. Yinkadida, he feels it's not an embarrassment. Well, I know you are strongly entitled to your opinion on that. I still have a reservation on that because it's becoming a recurrent decimal. And in the security community, you will agree with me that there's a need for decorum. You don't just wash your dirty linen in the public anyhow. When you refer to the foreign countries that such a thing happens there,
You don't see such a thing in their military or the armed forces or uniformed personnel per se, such fracas. What you can see is what you refer to as happenings in their parliament, which is seen all over the world. And we all know that whatever happens in parliament stays in parliament. Just like the saying that whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. It is normal. It's not too much of an anomaly to see fracas happening within the parliament. It's happened all over. We've seen it in Poland and every other places like that. But it doesn't mean that it should be the normal thing. But the point is, those kind of a thing has been observed happening in parliament. But for the military, paramilitary, and all the rest engaging themselves like that, I've not really experienced it in the Western world. I might have my limitations, but I think that's the way I've seen it so far. Big Daddy, your change factor, two elephant fighting, and all the rest. I want to agree with you that the police and those people should work more professionally and refuse to allow those who are abusing or misusing them to have a leeway. In essence, professionalism should be the core word. Demola from Magbon, thank you very much for your info on the leadership that are entitled to retinue of security. Like we've been trying to look at it, that should they really have this kind of security even after they have left office? But the question we are really asking is how many people should be securing a particular ex-office holder or current office holder, apart from the presidency and governorship and whatever. I don't know why we have to have so many people securing these public office holders, particularly those that are no longer in office. There should be a limitation to the numbers. As for the faulty arrests, yes, there's need for information sharing, but there's still one thing I'm still looking at. Do you think Ekpeyon would ordinarily have gone in, just like the Lamodes and all the rest? Of course, Magu is doing, like Ayodo rightly identified, doing what he should have done first, is doing it last. That's why I said we are not so much open to the procedures of what he has done before, but from all indications he has gone to court now. I thought he would have done that first rather than doing it after the Gestapo arrest failed. But we are on a learning curve, and I hope we do things appropriately on a continuous basis. And Mr. Yeka Adedaimbo, well, you also, like Dr. Oko, my dear friend, said, you're not feeling it's an embarrassment. But for me, it's becoming too much of a recurrence decimal. We need to checkmate these excesses and work accordingly on decorum. Mr. Kola Oluwabi from Basala, Nigeria does not do things appropriately, and the overlapping functions is not properly done. I want to agree with you in terms of the overlapping functions of the various agencies. There's need for synergy. Just like Demola from Agbon said, there's need for information sharing. That goes a long way in forestalling unnecessary crisis. Now, going to the tweets and the robots, he talked about the recruitment factor that is going to checkmate the persistent few. I'm not so sure that is tenable enough. You can recruit people, look at their credentials, look at their personalities and all the rest, but when the chips are down, few, like my dear friend Dr. Nkom agreed with me, is inevitable. And when few come, you must have crisis management strategies in place to checkmate such development from getting out of hand. So the fact that you are properly recruited, you have good people recruited and all the rest does not mean that there can't be challenges. And when challenges come, you must face up to those challenges without necessarily creating unnecessary distractions and fracas. Camille, well, quite a lot of submissions. You talked about the misuse of the agents, just like Big Daddy said, and there's need for them to be professional, and the president should correct the anomaly. But I don't want to believe that the president should be held responsible according to Da Vinci directly. He can be indirectly responsible, in as much as he is not directly doing the job of coordinating these agencies. Of course, everything falls on his desk, but then the NSA, as agreed by Colonel Lawal, that was discussed with the other time, should be held responsible for failing to coordinate effectively. Everybody falls under his jurisdiction. It is for him to report to the president. The president can only be challenged to be indirectly responsible for not, he has to be answerable to everything that happens under his watch anyway. Leo Leshi, well, you said everything that is happening is very political, and that's what we have been saying, that they have to be apolitical. Thank you very much.
All right, Yemi Da Vinci once again is asking a direct question. Alhaji Animashaun, what do you think President Olusegun Obasanjo would have done in this scenario? Generals should be generals.
Thank you very much. Some people have been saying that we need benevolent dictator, but the situation that President Buhari finds himself today, don't forget the antecedent during the election when people were using it against him, that having been a military head of state before, that he's going to be a dictator, that he's not going to be democratic, he's not going to uphold democratic principles. And he came out to say he is a born-again leader that is going to be democratic, that is going to follow ideals of democracy. If he chooses, everybody has his own style. President Obasanjo, ex-President Obasanjo has his style. But the particular baggage that comes with President Muhammadu Buhari makes it quite an enormous challenge for him to derail from his promise. Yes, benevolent dictatorship, some people are asking for. But the moment he goes outside the laid down procedure and principles of democratic dictates, it becomes something else. So it might not be so easy to just go on that pedestal.
All right, we have more tweets coming in. Security agents are governor's official bodyguards. Remember the arrest saga between the FCC and DSS. And that's billionaire Jishafe. Babati says respondents tend to portray the FCC in a bad light, which to me is not right. I think there is an issue that has not been talked about in the studio. However, the issue of sending invitation to various people and they refuse to honor it. When the EFCC now get info on how to bundle these people, whalers now tend to whale. There are lots of these issues. The one of Pius Aim is still fresh and recent. What does Mr. Animashaun have to say to this?
Well, bundling people, I want to believe we must follow due process in whatever we want to do. But if it comes to using Gestapo style of arrest, perhaps every available procedure has been exhausted and this person is resisting arrest, there might be no other option to find a way of bringing him to book. But to how far, to what extent has these procedures been exhausted is another question entirely to be addressed. We have to know, has all these channels of getting them to come in been exhausted? If not, then you've got to explore those channels rather than using force to bring them in. But then, nobody is above the law. You must be answerable, whichever way they have to bring you to book. I want to appreciate Kari Lumide for his submissions. We hope those concerned are listening. And to him, if you have any answer, any call to answer, you must respond and respond on time rather than being forced. And there's something that came to my mind along the line. In this country, there seems to be two rules for the poor and the rich. I'm not sure if I'm wrong. When the poor people commit offenses, the police, yes, I expect that they follow procedures, but sometimes nobody bothers whether they use force to arrest a poor fellow to answer for his deeds. But when it comes to the powerful and well-placed and political juggernauts, and
some people have said you are talking about criminal offense. The one will be the classical offense.
I know there is always a way out of it in terms of analysis.
So we are looking at the classical offense now, not the criminal
even if a poor politician at the local government level commits a classical offense against criminal offense, don't expect that he will get special treatment like those who are powerful at the top, at the federal level or state level. So it bothers my mind a lot. There shouldn't be two rules for arresting people. In any case, I believe all channels of arrest and procedures should be followed. But when it comes to really getting them to answer, there must be a way of doing it equally, irrespective of the class that you belong to.
All right, more tweets coming in, and of course, more messages. Let's quickly take some of the messages. IK from Ifo says, what is the difference between fake drugs and expired drug? It is unfortunate that PMB can no longer protect his integrity because of the cabals that he has welcomed into his cabinet. For him to end well what he has started, he must flush out those cabals starting from the IGP because the man is not helping matters at all. Uh, this one says the security force without hierarchy is Nigerian police. If there's no limit for junior, senior officers' activities, there'll be trouble. The army has a better hierarchy structure. That is why they don't clash with themselves publicly due to politics. All departments in the police should respect each other hierarchy to avoid power tussle. Honorable Mankot Yusuf from Funab sent in that one. All right, let's go back to the tweets. This one says, on this issue of overlapping functions of police and other agencies, we have the military rule to blame. They progressively underfunded, undermined, and undervalued the purpose of the Nigerian police. If we are a serious country, we should have collapsed all these agencies into the police. We won't sack competent people, and the chain of command will be cleaner. Yemi Da Vinci.
Well, let me quickly face the message first. The person talking about fake drug and expired drug. Well, I understand the analogy you are trying to make. I'm not a pharmacist. I will answer you in a very funny way as well. I think pharmacists will be best positioned to answer the differences between a fake drug and an expired drug. All I know is that you've got to put a square peg in square holes and do the best necessary for humanity. Thank you very much. The army hierarchy, and that is from Honorable Yusuf from UNAB, that the army made the military. No, that's Da Vinci.
No, that in Mankot, in the army, the hierarchy is still respected.
And
In
but the police is not.
It's gone. That's why you have those clashes.
I think hierarchically they both have respect. It's just that because we don't have, we can't blame the police as much. The police are more involved with the civilians, and they seems to have been kind of influenced by development sociologically, in whatever sense you want to look at it. And that's why people are saying that they are getting politicized. Are you getting me now? Because of the influences rubbing off on them. And don't forget, it's obey the last order, protect this person. And this person has been there for you. Whichever way you want to look at it, you are supposed to discharge your duties professionally and whatever sense you have of developing the protection for him. So the effect of the general society is rubbing off on the police. It makes them vulnerable in this instance, apart from the feuds and clashes that develops among them. So we tend to see more of their own than the military, even though the hierarchy of the military protects and shields them more than the way it seems that of the police is doing the job. So for me, it's neither here nor there. Professionalism is the main thing that they should work on. And saying that the military has to be blamed for underfunding, that's Da Vinci, I don't think I want to agree with that. It's not the military that funds the police, it's the government generally that funds every agency of government. Funding may be there, weak funding, challenges with funding may be there, but it doesn't mean that that should make them to throw professionalism to the wind. You've got to do your job, discharge your job. You don't say because I'm not well funded as a civil servant, I'm not having enough, then I will not do the job the way I should do it. It doesn't mean that your money will not come in. As a teacher, you don't say that you're not going to teach, except if you are going on strike, that I will not teach the students the way I should teach them. As a professional, you're supposed to do it and wait for your salary to come in. And if there are complaints as for infrastructure, you explain it, and the government should be held responsible for providing the necessary wherewithal for your job to be done. But it doesn't mean because of that you will not deliver. I don't think I want to subscribe to that.
All right, thank you very much for your contributions. Those who called, those who sent messages, those who tweeted, and of course those who just sat down quietly, some that were actually driving and listened to the show. I hope you enjoyed the Daybreak Show this beautiful Monday morning. We want to appreciate you, Alhaji Ola Animashaun, for coming to our studio once again and doing justice to the topic.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, that's our show. We want to say a happy belated birthday once again to our own Dele.
My apologies.
Yeah.
You got to do that as well, even though you did not inform us yesterday.
A lot of people didn't know that. But we want to say that we appreciate you, we love you, and we pray that you will still celebrate more years on this earth, and God will continue to reward you bountifully. Those who sow bountifully will reap bountifully. You have sowed, you have labored, and God will reward you.
What can I say when it's coming from the pastor? So, amen.
Just say amen.
Amen.
And I pray that you see more of your grandchildren, not
Amen.
only the
Amen.
great grandchildren.
Amen.
All right, that's our show this morning. Thank you. I am Tobi Joseph.
And I am Dele Ayodo. God bless you all. God bless Nigeria, and God bless Rock City.